Welcome, everyone, to Teach Me PCB. I'm Mark, the creator of Teach Me PCB and one of the co-facilitators of this year's course, along with my friend Jesse Robinson. Hi, Jess.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. And we're also joined so far tonight by Brian Lindahl of Lindahl Engineering, who has been an incredible support this year, helping us out with Discord. He runs the backstage show for our StreamYards, which we're on now. He does all the control booth stuff and is generally an all-around good guy. So welcome to Office Hours, guys. What do y'all want to talk about tonight?
Oh, I probably should pull up the YouTube chat as I usually do.
Oh, yeah. By the way, for those of you joining us on YouTube, if you leave a chat in the YouTube or a comment, it comes straight to us in StreamYard and we can show it on the screen. And we're here to answer any questions that you may have. The StreamYard link that allows you to join us on screen is also in the YouTube comments. So feel free to click on that if you want to join us on screen. I was kind of thinking tonight we might talk about panelization and DFMs, but I'm here for you. So whatever you guys want to do. Ooh, but I do have something that we have to do first for the thumbnails. I have to make each one of you smile. You're going to love it.
All right.
Okay, Jess, you want to go first?
On the smile, or are you going to tell us a joke or something?
Okay, I'm going to tell you a joke. Did you know that a blue whale is so large that if you lay it lengthwise over a basketball court, they have to cancel the game? That'll do. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Now it's Brian's turn. I need to exit solo layout without removing you. Okay, Brian. We're gonna do something a little more interesting with you. All right, Brian, I want you to model. You're a lion. You're a tiger. Okay, I love it. I love it. Okay, Brian, now make me hate it. Make me hate it. There we go. Okay, now make me love it again.
Layout in a nutshell.
Buddy, we got to smile. Thanks so much, man. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
All right. So we got a couple comments coming in. MTJ says, I don't want to talk about how far behind I am.
That's okay. We won't talk about it.
We won't talk about it. Remember, we've got the schematic for you in a checkpoint. So if you want it, if you need to jump in at a checkpoint and just take Jesse's schematic in library files, man, that is absolutely okay. That's why we did that.
Did you release the schematic? I thought you only put the library files.
Uh-oh, did I not? I thought I did. If I
can
did
never find the files.
I don't remember.
I've had several people ask, and I've always sent them the PDF. So,
okay.
Well, he says he just has to do his layout, so that's not that far behind. You can do it. It's I won't say it's easy, but it can be done.
Doable.
We've had several that got it done in under a week this last week, so it's possible.
It's going to take time, but here's the thing. This first project that we designed, it can be designed for connectivity. As long as the traces connect, you don't need to worry about signal integrity too much. And if you do a 4-layer board with the 2 middle layers are ground, you can run the traces in freaking circles. It's going to work. It'll be okay. I don't particularly like auto routers because you don't learn from them. But heck, I mean, if you lay out 50% of your board and let the auto router do the last 50, that's okay. We want you to be successful, MTJ. And if there's anything we can do to help you, we'd be happy to.
Does KiCad have an auto router?
I don't, probably. No. I assumed it had a plug-in.
It does not.
Oh, that's good, because most auto routers suck, so it works out.
Yeah.
And then Andrew's picking up dinner for us. I would like some short ribs, Andrew. That's nice.
Just as a topic for those who are watching this and partway through their layouts, make sure that you do the design rules check in KiCad or whatever program you're using, and make sure you look through everything pretty detailed and not just assume that you can scroll through and see everything, because you will probably miss something if you do that. I missed a via, and I'm going to have to put in one of those little wires to go around unless I decide to respin the board, which is not likely at this point. So make sure you do that check before you try to do anything else with it.
Does KiCad have a separate electrical rules check?
It's got a set of design rules, and there is a check in the little bug icon in the PC board designer does all that checking.
So,
It checks for spacing and
Mhm.
and some of that, whatever the rules are that you've set, you make sure that you have your things like your power net wider traces and
So,
all those
it
things.
looks like it has like just a DRC which covers shorts and close and everything, and then there's also a separate list unconnected.
Yeah, it does put it does put the unconnected stuff in that long list.
Okay.
I just missed it. I had about, well, I had the way I had the footprint for my key switch, or actually the LEDs. It had 4 warnings for every LED, and I've got 12 of them. So, there was a lot of lines of stuff, and buried in there someplace was something that said you have a disconnected trace. But it took me half an hour of poking around with a meter to realize that there was a missing via.
It happens. It happens to the best of us. I had, 3 or 4 mistakes on my board. Although, and I told Jesse this at the time, I wasn't designing. I was designing for marketing sample, which isn't an approved DFX. I needed something to hold in my hand,
Yeah.
So MTJ saying, are we targeting a 4-layer or could it be done in 2? It can absolutely be done in 2. It's a little harder to do in 2. That's why I was recommending a 4-layer.
I did mine on 2, and it wasn't horrible, but it probably could have been easier.
Yeah. Jesse, do you have a comment to add too?
Yeah, I responded there. It depends on your layout complexity. Like someone who did it, I think it was Andrew. He has like the reverse mount NeoPixels and a bunch of other cutouts going on. So like if you have a lot of things going through your board through holes, those are going to interrupt your traces and your surface mount components, and that makes it more complex. If you don't have much of that going on, you might be able to get away with 2-layer. And you could also, if you put your Pico on a header, you could have it like overlap the top of your buttons, I think, your keys.
That's true. That's true. Just give you that separation.
Yep, we've seen that a couple times.
I've seen everybody's board at this point, or everybody that's turned in for a DFM. I will say one of the ones that I thought just looked the cleanest and most organized so far is Tony's, our friend from New Zealand.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, I thought he
His
did
was a cool board, if I remember right.
His was what?
It was a cool looking board too, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah. And now what's going on with the Fox board? Have you guys seen that one today?
Mm-hmm.
No.
So I actually spent a little bit of time. So if you go into the forums, and let me share while I'm looking. I moved screens and now I don't know where I'm going. Give me a second here. Let me show you. It's a 3 PCB layout. Really quite interesting. Okay, let's share. Oh, you can share slides now, apparently. Well, we don't want to do that. I just want to share screen 1. This is going to get messy for just a second. There we go. Come on in. All right, so I'm in the forums right now, and people are doing design reviews over there, and the Fox layout is the one I'm looking for. Thanks. Thank you. So Henry has this board, but this is just one of 3 boards that he's done, and hopefully he'll give us a file. But I went ahead and DFM'd them for him and also panelized. So I was going to share that with everybody. because it's kind of interesting the way that it did it. So he's got 2 boards that appear to be signal, and then a third board that is, I guess, just to hold keys or act as a top control panel.
Okay. Yeah, if you use the sockets, you need a strength layer, I guess.
Yeah, so this is going to be a
Snap
3-layer PCB. If I remember right, 2 of these things are 4-layer boards, and the other one is like a no-layer board. It's just, he's keeping track of the fiberglass on it.
Yeah.
So if you're interested at all, what this thing looks like after. Oh, and here's something else. He said he stayed up all night to do this thing, which I totally believe. But here's the amazing part. No DFM, nothing he needed to fix.
Good for him.
Yeah,
That's
that
awesome.
was. I mean, for staying up all night, for managing 3 boards,
especially so the DFM report said nothing.
So like the DFM for the top layer, nothing, 0, no errors found.
Wow, which is weird because the DFM flags a lot of stuff that aren't really important.
Right. Now the other 2,
he fixed that before it even got to that point. Oh.
So the other 2 layers, they did have some stuff, but it was all minor stuff. Let's move a trace a little bit over, non-functional pads. Well, the fabricator is going to remove those. So just anyways, if you are interested, I did panelize. I would not recommend ordering that panel, but if you do want to look at the panel, Trace Space wasn't able to handle it. It was too much information. So maybe try GurbView or something. But that was an interesting board.
Cool.
And and then let's see if we have Tony's Enoji board. So this was another one that, it just looked like a pretty clean layout. He had all of the traces, going mostly vertical, and then they cut left or right. So it just made for I don't know. Are you guys able to see that at all? It looks pretty low contrast on my screen.
Yeah.
So it just had a very clean layout. So that was another one I thought was interesting.
It's nice.
Yeah. Some of these, I'm not really that sure. I don't remember which one's which. But there were some cool, very cool arty designs. There's no picture there. Oh, well. The Manta Ray one. So
there's pictures, little pictures in the Discord, I think.
Yeah.
Because that was the issue with the printer. With a paper doll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to write up how to do a paper doll at some point too. But let me remove that and we're back on screen. DFM program sounds broken. Yes and no. So really what I need to do, by the way, I only bought a license for this for 1 month, right? So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time tweaking this thing to be perfect. But really what you would want to do is create a set of DFM rules that work for Royal. Create a set of DFM rules that work for PCBWay. A set of DFM rules that work for whoever. Because all of these people have slightly different equipment in their plants that performs slightly differently. And that's where you want to set your deadlines based on what their capabilities are. So it's not that it's broken. I'm broken, Andrew. I'm very broken. Yeah. But it's really the onus is really on me to better tweak those settings. And I just haven't. I can show them to you if you guys are interested.
Yeah, show us your DFM program.
You sound really excited, Jess.
No, the cat is attacking me, so I'm playing with her a little bit too.
Okay, let's try it again. This time with emphasis.
What does Royal use for their DFM?
Ucamco.
Okay.
Ucamco. They're actually the ones in charge of the Gerber standard, or for whatever reason. So 274X. So let's add this back into stream and move this over. Sorry about all that.
Okay, Infinity windows are cool.
Infinity windows are cool. Okay, except now I can no longer see what my screen looks like. So you guys are going to have to yell at me. I can't even read that. It's so small. Let me.
Here's the. Are you trying to pull up the online Gerber viewer?
Well, I was going to show you Ucamco, but I need StreamYard back where it's visible to me so I can see what I'm showing. So I had to move things over. No, that's not what I want. I want that there. Okay. I am making a mess of things. There we. This is what I wanted. Okay. So Ucamco is the software. They've got Gerber viewers. They got everything. They're responsible. If you're ever interested in learning what the Gerber format is, the 274X, they've got that here. You can check it up, check it out. They do have a reference Gerber viewer that you can upload stuff to and check out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you know it's there for you. So anyways, that's Ucamco. Now, for the exciting stuff, you guys want to know what I'm using. So this is actually a very cool bit of software by Numerical Innovations. This is a small team. It's like 5 or 6 people, but man, they make cool stuff. And if it didn't cost $75 a month, I would keep a copy of this on my machine. Absolutely. By the way, if you do want to play around with this, it is $75 a month. You can cancel anytime. There's no, there's no commitment. There's no long-term commitment. They also have something that I'm interested to play with once PCB, TeachMePCB wraps up. They have an online Gerber viewer, but then I have to learn what are they glob files are and create one of those. But I would like to get a instant Gerber DFM check going on TeachMePCB, and you can do that with their software. So anyhow, let's load a file. Who should be the lucky person that we pick?
I don't know. I don't think mine ever ran through, but you don't have mine, I don't think.
No, I don't think you uploaded it. Brian, want to do yours?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, TeachMePCB user submissions.
So show me all the stuff that I didn't check before I ordered the boards.
Okay.
Yes, I did things
So,
backwards.
the first thing you have to check is that you've got all of the things properly assigned, because it doesn't always figure it out. So with Brian's, it's easy. It did. So we've got bottom copper, bottom solder mask, bottom silk, the border, top copper, top mask, top paste, top silk. Are we missing a paste layer, Brian?
I didn't intentionally do the paste layers, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't see a bottom paste layer on yours. So here's a mistake.
Do you have surface mount on both sides or one side?
There's surface mounts only on one side.
Okay, that's why.
There you go. Okay, so here's a mistake we've got to change. This is a non-plated through hole in PTH. It identified it as a border error. It's not plated through hole, drilled through hole. So we take it, let it import, and there's our board.
Moo.
Moo. Moo.
It's probably complaining about those slots on the key switches, but
well, we're going to run the DFM in just a second. I'm getting a different mouse out so I don't have to use a trackpad there on the laptop. There we go.
that's always
all right. So we'll just turn things off so you can look at layer by layer. Like, for example, here's our paste layer on the top that, doesn't exist on the bottom. Silk screen. It's always useful to look at things separately. You can sometimes see mistakes you can't see when everything's all together. Here we've got the solder mask layer, right? So you just can look at things individually, and sometimes you'll see things that you didn't see otherwise. Always a useful tool. So anyhow, and for the DFM check, this is where you can set, I mean, all sorts of fun things. You can decide what size you want things to be. You can set minimum annular rain. You can say, well, the absolute minimum I can do is 3, 4 is doable, 5 is golden, and it will identify. So you can really tweak this thing. All sorts of measurements. I tweaked a few settings. I did not tweak a lot. And then you click finish and we run it. And we're on a laptop, so it's going to be a little slower than on my desktop computer. But we'll let it run. Here you go,
See
buddy.
you next week.
Nah, it'll take a minute, but we can talk about something else in the meantime.
So we can talk about one quick thing as people are generating their Gerbers and stuff for the DFM and for ordering. Things that are important for a board house, but not like, I guess things that aren't important for your board house. They don't care about the paste layers unless they're making you a stencil. They're not going to care about your position file, which is the placement of your components. Those are needed for an assembly house.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of places when you are ordering boards, you can also order a stencil at the same time, and then you would need your paste files. So
I almost did just in case, but I decided it was only $8, something like that at JLPCB or JLCPCB. It was pretty cheap for a laser cut stainless steel.
what would you have
stencil.
done? What would you have done to make it? Would you have like hot plated or?
That's why I didn't. I have a toaster oven and all the stuff to put together to build a reflow, but I haven't done it yet. So I decided I wasn't going to get ahead of myself.
Okay. Yeah, I would say it's not
far
worth
enough
it.
ahead as it is.
It's not worth it to have a stencil and paste and stuff if you're gonna do hot air, like like manual. But if you have a hot plate, or some people use like an iron that they've converted. I've seen that, or I have a toaster oven converted to reflow. Then it's worth it. I've used those. One word of warning though, like LEDs don't like temperature overshoot and they don't like moisture. And until you get your process tuned, it's probably not worth putting your LEDs on because you might have some high fallout. I've had that a lot. Usually it's related to the moisture, because if you get any moisture in there, the temperature causes the lens to pop on like those smart LEDs, and it pulls the bonding wires off.
Yeah, I was noticing the reverse mount LEDs for Metafruit they come in a humidity control bag, sealed so tight, and it says don't take them out until you're absolutely ready to use it, and all sorts of instructions that I kind of ignored. Actually, it said what it said was as soon as you open it, make sure you have everything processed within hours or something.
If you're hand soldering, it doesn't matter.
I closed it. I took one out to mount it, closed it back up, and put a binder clip on it, put it back in the box. So it's as back to closed as it's going to get at this point.
Yeah, it probably wants you to keep them in certain temperature and humidity, and then if you don't have that, you have to bake them out.
Yep. I bought my boards for my dice lamp from a company. I had them assemble it, and they put the LEDs on, and I think 20% of the LEDs didn't work, 20 or 40%. And then when I noticed if I pressed down on them, they would work, but the red channel was going out. And I basically asked them, like, I think it's a moisture thing because it pops the lenses out. They're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. These were open pack and we put them on there. It's like, well, how the heck? And they're like, well, next time we'll just hand solder them, because I didn't have enough for them to buy a full reel. They're like, oh, we've used these LEDs all the time without a problem. You should have known.
Sure you do.
So they refunded me like, I think 20% of my order, but I had to remove all the LEDs and put new ones on because it's not worth chancing it.
Now that took you a month of Sundays.
Yeah, it was not fun.
That's why I only put one on so far, as I didn't want to have it. I wanted to find out all the board problems before I started finding the LED problems.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, and honestly, the only thing as far as hand soldering goes, The only thing that was too small at this to work with at this point was the SOT23 5-pin for the
Oh yeah, the level shift
for the LED driver
yeah,
for the for the level converter.
SOT 235.
Yeah, and I even with a microscope, I could barely. I could see it, but I couldn't coordinate. I didn't have the manual dexterity to get my soldering iron on one pad at a time. I had to do the drag thing because there was no getting it that precise. The tip of the soldering iron, the round tip that comes for the pine sol, is bigger than the pads on that. So it's almost impossible.
What you got there, buddy?
Yeah, so these are the 24-pin FPC connectors, and these are Molex ones. And one of the things I ended up changing on my board is I got these in, and this is actually one of the things that I had my this one. It's this one, yeah. So I have my paper doll. Let me turn off that filter because it's not working very well. Hold on. There we go. I don't know why. Anyway, I have my paper doll, and one of the things I decided was my eyesight's pretty decent. My soldering skills are pretty good, but it was only like 0.4 millimeters of length on these FPCs to be able to solder them on. And so I ended up actually I changed the footprint to get longer ones from Amphenol. So I'm with you, and I'll probably actually still end up just putting paste on them and then using my hot air gun to try and get it to go that way.
Those things are, I understand them to be a nightmare.
Yeah. I'm not regretting it yet, but there's still time.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons for my display that I went with the soldering on the pre-built breakout board.
Oh,
I considered that, but I wanted to be cool, so we'll see.
It's going to be cool. It's going to have a little frame over it, so nobody will know what it is anyway. So,
is there no mounting holes for your display? I noticed that when I was peeking at your Gerbers.
No, there's not. It's I have the display actually right here. I can show you. It looks like there should be it looks like there should be mounting holes when you look at like the PDF or when you look at like the diagram. So I don't know if you can see that. So it looks like here should be holes, but they're not. They're solid through and through. So I'm just gonna put some hot glue or something down. Or double-sided, yeah. Yeah, double-sided, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because in your Gerbers, it kind of looked like you had things that looked like circles where the holes would be, and I'm like, but there's no holes. But you're aware. Okay.
Yep, I'm aware. Yep, I had them actually as holes originally because I was unsure, and then I figured that they wouldn't be holes, and even if they were, I wasn't going to use them because it made routing a lot harder. And so I just took the holes out, but I left it in on my solder mask, just because that's what I had my solder mask.
Okay.
Oh, you got a cute little one there with you?
Yep, she's eating.
So, Andrew, I have to do something to you. You missed it at the beginning.
I know I didn't. I saw it. I'm ready. Tell me my joke.
I got to get you I got to get you full screen here. Solo layout. There we go. All right.
There we go. Okay.
Did you know that there are so many arteries and veins and capillaries in a human that if you took them out and laid them end by end from here to New York, the patient
you'd be dead.
Would die?
Yes, I did know that. It's a lot, though.
It's a lot. Okay. Yeah. We got a good smile, man. Thank you.
All right. That was a good. That's always a good. My other one I like is if you teach a man or give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man a fish, he eats for a lifetime. Build a man a fire, he stays warm for a day. Set a man on fire, he stays warm for a lifetime.
Yes, that's the good one. Yes.
Engineering humor at its finest. What's the other
All
one?
right.
Oh, yeah. All mushrooms are edible, some only once.
Oh, very true. That's just
Okay,
good
anyway,
life.
that's the end of my my dark jokes.
Let me get this over. Okay, I'm checking. We are still running the DFM.
Interesting.
So-
So is it like, how long does it take on your other computer? I'm kind of curious.
30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
But this laptop is pretty heavily taxed at the moment. It's running
Sure.
StreamYard. It's controlling my video mixer. It's not a great laptop. So, I mean, some 5 seconds, most of them less than a minute. So
I'm just trying to figure out, like, because it seems like part of it is like a traveling salesman problem. I mean, more for like routing. The checking should be pretty easy, but I'm just kind of curious. I'd be really curious to see sort of under the hood in the code to understand how they're actually doing the checking, because it seems like it's a interesting problem to solve.
yeah.
ON squared, yeah.
Do you know how the Gerbers work at all, Andrew? Oh, he's taking care of kid.
No, I don't. I've briefly peeked in them. I think that they are. I think they're text files, though. Last I checked, I think we talked about them briefly.
Yeah, so essentially what it's going to do, like when you have your original file, you've got your board and it looks so pretty. A trace, no big deal, right? You just figure you've got a line going from point to point. But let's take something like a copper pour, right? You've got copper everywhere. Well, what it'll do is it'll create a shape like a circle or a rectangle. And then it'll say, okay, put that shape all over the place, and you start getting lines that repeat and well, now we're at an angle. Well, now we need a different shape. So those shapes are called apertures, and they get flashed all over the place, these repeating patterns. So your copper port isn't...
It's the G code.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's not coming... Yeah, we talked about this. It's coming back to me now.
So the more stuff you have on the board, the more stuff that it's got to check, from this aperture to the one next to it. What's the clearance? And it does that in all the layers, and it does some other stuff. But it's got to chew through it. So.
Yeah. Just throwing CPU cycles at it, basically.
Yeah. So if I had, some multi-threaded whatever, I'm sure we'd be done at this point. But I don't know. So we just got to chill till it happens. So
I've been trying to figure out the answer to this question that's on the screen there. I know I've heard it, and I'm going to kick myself when it's answered. But
how many ears does Spock have? Okay, no, Brian. Here's what you do. You don't have to answer it. I don't know parallel logic. How many ears does Spock have? And then you just wait, and then they answer it.
You wait, and it comes out this.
What do we have? Do we have the answer? Left ear, right ear, and the final front ear. Yeah.
I knew it was going to be bad.
That's not bad. That was awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing parallel logic. So how do we think the course is going? Do we have any other needs going on?
I mean, I'm just waiting for my board now. I think things looks like they're chugging along pretty nicely for everyone. Everyone's getting caught up and getting boards ordered, and we should be able to start building boards in the next couple of weeks.
I hope that the people that have, before you order boards, you should probably order components, because then you can make all those last minute changes because of component availability. So just a word to the wise.
I still have a couple kits left. I've shipped out all the US. I'm not all that keen about shipping overseas, but if you can't get parts, I will do it. I'll ship them to you. I'm just trying to avoid it just from a cost factor. It's cheaper for you guys to buy that stuff in country than for me to ship it to you. Because then a lot of places I ship it to, there's going to be a value-added tax, there's customs clearance. It's just a pain in the butt. I'm complaining a lot, but I'll do it. I will do it if you need me to. Just let me know.
And I think on some of those parts you've already paid VAT or tariffs. You've already paid tariffs because it comes from over there, and then you're going to have to send it back and pay VAT.
Pay more. Yeah. Yeah. Never the easy way, is it?
There was somebody in Discord that was, I think he was in India, that said the import duties were like 80 or 90% of the value. And that's tough if you're ordering $100 worth of parts and the big shipping, and then to have that much tariff on top of it is really, really hard.
Yeah. And the pay in India for like a freshman engineer is nowhere near where I think it should be.
That's why offshoring works.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. We do have 60 or 70 offshore engineers with Royal, and we try to take care of them and pay them well. It's a great team. They run 3 shifts, so whenever we have engineering needs, you ship us your boards. They do all the CAD CAM work overnight while you sleep, right? Because it's morning over there. And we try to do right by them, but they should be paid more. They're worth more in my eyes than and this is India as a whole, not Royals engineers, because we do right by them. But I was talking to one on Discord that I met through Altium last year, and I think he got a job offer for his first job for $250 a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, no, they are so taking advantage. I don't even know how you live on that over there. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
When I worked at one of my co-ops, they had people over there doing FEA, same thing, overnight. So
we are still spinning. I wonder if I'm asking too much of this laptop. It should not be taking this long. All right. So I've got a question for you. Even though we had the layout 2 weeks, we still have people who are struggling and life gets in the way. Is that something where we want to stretch to 3 weeks next time?
Depends on when the holidays hit.
Yeah, I think it's the holidays.
Yeah, Thanksgiving right at the beginning of it, and that's going to kill a bunch of people in the U.S.
So if we did this again, 2 weeks is okay as long as the holiday's not involved.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, I think it's fine. I think you're always going to be the people ahead, like me, and the people behind, like the ones that are still doing their schematics. So they'll get there, I think.
I mean, in the end, what's the headline doing? You know what I mean? Like if someone does one, because a lot of them are sourcing their own parts and sourcing their own boards. If they're late on this go, it just kind of means they can't show off at the same time, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, don't let that be a barrier. If you're behind and you're not going to get it done this year, don't let that be a barrier to not doing it at all.
Finish it in January or whatever.
Yeah, and I would even say I don't know how long the Discord's going to be around, or at least in this version. But I was helping Elliot out last night, even with a peer review check, even though it officially had closed through the forums. But I'm happy to look at anyone else's board and give my 2 cents for whatever that's worth.
And once my license to this DFM software runs out, which it will, because I just paid for the month, we do it through the Ucamco stuff at Royal. We do it for free. All you have to do is email sales, and it's going to look a little different than the reports I'm putting out. It's a different software, but it'll still tell you what your minimum features are and if you have some issues. The software usually is set to just look for one issue of each type and look for the minimum feature, because that's what's going to be the cost driver for your board. You know, what's your smallest trace? What's your smallest space? What's your smallest annular ring? Your smallest copper clearance. That's the stuff it's going to look for, because that impacts the risk, which then impacts the cost of the board. So yeah, we can do it. Don't give up. You've made it this far. Stay with us. Please. Please. All right. I'm going to give this another couple minutes, and then I'm going to assume the program's frozen due to memory issues. And I will just show you an old one. You know, if this laptop isn't able to carry the load. Here's another question. How can we demonstrate value to our sponsors? Once this is done, how are we going to show off all our boards?
I mean, like Adafruit show and tell kind of thing, but for us, I guess.
Well, I think we should absolutely do it, but why don't we just go crash Adafruit's party too?
Yeah. Well, we do that, but then I think one thing is that you put on the website to find a way to put a permanent gallery of previous projects. Here put up the 3D renderings of the various things, or pictures of the actual boards, or whatever, video of how of lights flashing, whatever. That kind of thing, that where and I think that will keep the sponsors' names next to it, whoever sponsored that particular season, and I think that'll help.
Absolutely, I like that. So we can do a permanent gallery. Do you think that participants would be willing to do a short video walking through their board and talking about the course?
I bet at least some people would be. I don't know if everyone. I mean, there's people who are going to be like camera shy, which is, I get it.
That's why there's only 5 of us here, or 4 of us here.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you could. Yeah, I think if you made it clear that you didn't need to show your face, that might get some more people if they didn't, if that was part of their concern. And for everything else, I mean, I just have them, or have them like record just like an audio narration. You could have, send pictures. You can put like a slideshow kind of thing. I mean, I think there's a variety of ways you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, it would be great if we could get all our lurkers onto StreamYard and do something like we're doing now. That would be fantastic. But if they're uncomfortable, we don't want to do that. Don't want to put people in positions they don't want to be in.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I also just think it can be challenging to herd cats of any, even willing participants trying to get through everyone's schedule and find a time that works would be challenging, I think.
Yeah, very true. All right.
Yeah.
I am going to assume that Fab 3000 hung. It's been at 1% since we clicked it. So I think I just don't have enough free memory to throw at this thing. So let me instead bring up Brian's report and we'll talk about it. How about that?
Okay.
That's fine.
So sorry about that, folks. It should not take that long, but again, I'm not on my workstation computer where I can, throw 32 megs of RAM and have 40 Chrome windows open and all that.
And it's unrelated to the amount of errors,
right,
in Brian's board.
It is actually. It's related to the amount of copper that's on the board. More copper is more apertures and
I haven't looked at the format, but that sounds like a nightmare.
What do you mean?
Just even decoding it is to show it is bad enough. Writing an accurate Gerber would seem to be a very messy process in my head. I try to think through what I would do to generate that kind of file, and I just
yeah.
I lock up worse than the software did. Yeah, that's the thing for me coming from software engineering. I think that's the side I think about all the time, and that would drive me nuts.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at that first. Give me a second, and I'll reload your files here. Drill through non-plated through hole. So let's take a look at the Gerbers. I'm not going to pull up all the D codes, but Brian, could you bring me back up my shared screen? Okay. So here we go. This is Brian's board again. We're not going to hit DFM because that made the computer angry, and we don't want to look at that. But let's see if we can't look at some of these files. So each one of the traces, let's actually, something, let's turn everything off and just bring up top copper. So each one of these traces is defined as a line. No big deal. But you start looking at what it does with your other things, and this is where you can start running into memory issues. Every curve gets broken into a polygon, right? A series of overlapping polygons. The spaces in between. So a lot of you guys will see, by the way, before I do spaces in between, you'll see some error checks where it's like, oh, we can't print this. This line is too thin. So I think that had something to do with the way you exported and imported the Inkscape stuff, because it seemed to only be on graphics. So these things would come up as like 0.7 mils or whatever, and that would flag. But I don't know that it's really a problem.
No, that's not Inkscape. The Inkscape was just around the edge and the back silk screen. That's the footprint on the LED. It's 4 pads and a cutout. It's the edge around the cutout. That particular spot.
You're absolutely right, but also I don't think these are errors. I was just kind of using that as an example.
Could be, yeah.
Like these lines would come really small on some people's boards. We don't have those errors showing on yours. I don't have any errors showing on yours. So anyhow, this copper pour, let me see how I show that.
And so real quick, so on that line, so basically they're just lines tangent to the curve, a series of lines all tangent to the curve.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Let's look at NC editor mode.
I thought that G code had like an arc function, but maybe it doesn't. I'll have to go look. Or maybe Gerber just doesn't support it.
It depends
Gerber is just not, Gerber's primitive. Gerber has been around for so many years that even G code has 2, but it's a different animal. It really is.
Okay. It's amazing what sticks around.
Yeah, it really is. So, and it also depends on which software you're using to export it, Andrew. So like KiCad did a really good job here. They didn't go crazy. I know I've run into errors before on some curves where maybe there's, in this little area, 1,000 tangent lines exported by GIPtrace. And you're like, why? And it overloads the memory in the machine and there's nothing you can do. All right. We are looking for the little button that says show the decodes, and I don't see it. Well, maybe I'm not going to show you anything cool. I'll just have to skip over to the thing. Okay. One thing that I know people get interested in on 4-layer boards, you'll get an error that says non-functional pads. So these are pads on internal layers that aren't connected to anything. So your fabricators will simply go and eliminate those. So if you've got internal pads, which Brian doesn't have because he's only got a 2-layer board, it really is a button click and then they're gone, right? So pads that don't do anything, they get removed from your design unless you specifically say keep them. So anyhow, back to Brian. So here is an example report of the errors that are on his board. And this is specific to Fab 3000. Ucamco gives you something a little bit different. So it gives us an overview. It's saying there's nothing really crazy. There's some silk screen over solder mask, some minimum same net clearances, and dangling traces. You'll see that you've got 50 silk screen line violations in 50 missing mask. That's because I set the maximum number of errors defined at 50 because I didn't want you to cry. All right. So here we've got silk screen 0.4. That's kind of going back to that line thing. It's looking at those lines and it's saying, hey, those are too thin. But I don't know why. Those showed up on some boards and not others. And it seemed to be people that imported artwork. So even the board shape. Anyhow, silk screen over solder mask. We'll go look for a couple of those.
I can understand that because the entire back surface of the board is mostly solder mask. And also mostly silk screen. So, yeah.
Let's look at the backside. So it's stuff like this that it's looking at. And it looks like we've got an alignment error, which I didn't see when I ran this before. So this must just be a fluke. And if we reran, but you'll see where
that doesn't exist. There isn't anything else there besides the drill. So I don't know what it's doing.
It didn't do that before, so I don't know either. So I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
But see here, like you've got silk screen, and it's kind of close to a hole, and it's definitely in this hole. So they're going to trim all of that out. You won't get that lettering. You'll get parts of that lettering. It's going to look weird. That's the silk screen over pad error that it's talking about.
It's all right. Can you zoom back in? So real quick. So on that, then, so when they get rid of it, what you mean is they're not just trimming the part that wouldn't be printed. They trim that whole command, if you will, for that, like that looks like it's part of like a W or something for that, like that leg of the W, or would they actually trim like the entire, I guess, reference designator?
Let's do it. So I want a minimum clearance of 0.003, might be a standard minimum stub length of, output layer, same layer. Let's give it a shot. Did I do it? Doesn't feel like I did it. Everything's highlighted. Fabrication, remove. No, it wasn't remove. It was silk screen optimizer. Those are my silk screen layers. Clearance in inches. Give me 3 mils clearance. Stub length. Use trim. There we go. Let's try that. Nope. I don't know what I'm doing then, Andrew. But you would basically be looking at the hole or looking at any other feature, and you would trim 3 mils from that. So that would cut into all these things. See what we see now? It's kind of like what you would get, except it would be even worse.
Gotcha.
It's interesting that those two holes collide too. I didn't realize they were quite that close. The slot and the big round and the big one for the switch are coincident.
Yeah,
it's okay because the LED is not actually that big, so it doesn't actually touch anything. But
yeah, they are pretty close. I don't know why that's not working, but it's my unfamiliarity with the software is the issue, I'm sure, rather than the software. This saved our butt last year at TeachMePCB. So anyhow, when you do get a report back, you don't need to pay attention to everything. Some things it's going to point out, and if you did something intentionally, you can ignore the error. If you did something unintentionally, that's what this is for. Jesse, what else would you like to say about DFM? And I'll get off screen here. Just making people seasick.
Notes for KiCad. There is a setting when you generate your Gerbers to delete silk that's over the top of remove solder mask, and that would remove a lot of your DFM errors. Also, it means you won't know if you did it by accident. So,
Right.
I know DipTrace actually has something that checks your reference designators against like running over pads and copper and stuff. KiCad doesn't have that I know of.
Yeah, your fabricator isn't going to print that silk. They're going to delete it. And they're going to trim it back to whatever they feel is appropriate. And that level of appropriateness is based on their registration error, how accurately they can put that silk screen down. So if you're using the old school stuff where you actually have silk in a screen, it's going to be different than if you have the silk screen printers, the direct legend printing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was an interesting that video that got posted. What's the guy's name? Crazy Parts that did the tour at JLC PCB.
Yeah, Scotty.
They were saying that the biggest difference is speed. The silk screening with an actual screen is real quick, and the other process, the process where it's printed with an inkjet is slower. But so if you've got one panel to do, they put it in the inkjet because it doesn't matter if it's just a little bit slower. But if you've got 100 boards, they do it with the silk screen, so it's per board is faster. Mm-hmm. Or the total time is quicker when it averages out better.
Yeah, but I would also say the printers don't look as good. The lines are wider; they're a little blobbier. Than
I think
the
mine might have been. I think mine might have been a printer. It's sparse. It's not uniform. I have a big silk area, and you can kind of see like lines in it. And I figured if it was actually silked on, you wouldn't see that.
Yeah, it's probably
mine's real crisp.
But there's an additional cost to setting up that silk screen and having an operator run that process.
Yep.
It is oftentimes cheaper just to run it through the printer. So all stuff that you have to keep in mind.
And I did
that's a trade-off.
15 boards. So.
Did any of you guys order the Christmas ornament from Royal Circuits?
I did.
Not this year.
So
I think I did. Yeah, I know. You put the link in.
Yep. Those
Yep,
are done. They're fabricated, and we're making some poor guy in shipping mail them out.
Wow, good.
So that's exciting. Also, the IPC Apex Expo in, I forget if it's January or February, but that's coming up. We've got access to it. Everybody gets the free virtual access. And I've also got 2 show passes for if anybody's going to be down in San Diego, contact me and I'll get those over to you. IPC Apex Expo. It should be fun. And Altium's partnering with them this year. So there should be some good content. It's always great to be in person if you can. If, of course, you feel safe doing so with the variant running around, shoot me a message. What other things can we do for people, Jess?
I don't know. I think the people that are still struggling, just get in the Discord. If you want board reviews, get in the Discord, and we'll get you across the finish line. Things might start slowing down for responses next week, but we'll be hitting in the new year again.
So, absolutely. You've put in this much time. You've made it this far. Let's get across the finish line. We'll drag you across. That's cool.
Yep.
And then also for everybody out there in TV land and on the chat now, start thinking up and, write them down when you think of them. Survey questions. What questions do I need to ask so that TeachMePCB will be better next time around? What do I need to know? One I know of already is the time commitment. My estimates from the survey responses so far, my estimates were way off, like an order of magnitude off. And I didn't ever intend that to be the case. I didn't want you guys spending half your lives here. I just wanted to provide opportunities for people who were interested. And I think a lot of people saw those opportunities as commitments, and I didn't mean that to be the case.
Well, and I think there's also minimum required time commitment, and then for myself, I put more time into it, and I spent more time, but I didn't have to do that. So I think that might be something to maybe just differentiate in your questioning.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, anything else for the good of the cause?
My recommendation on estimating time is that you double the amount and then go up a unit. So if you think it's going to take 1 day, it'll take you 2 weeks, and that generally works out.
That might be a little extreme, Andrew.
Hey,
Not a
it
bad
works for me,
estimating.
man.
It's
Not. It
estimating
actually works.
technique.
It works really well. Apply it and see how close you get when you do.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. What about future versions of our StreamYard? Is this worth paying? I forget. It's not much. It's like $20 a month. I kind of like it. Is it worth it? The DF. Go ahead.
I would say yes. I think this works really well. I've been very impressed by how well it works. If you're wanting to do this kind of collaborative thing.
Yeah, I would be very interested in seeing how it works with more participants. If we get 10 people or 20 people,
So then that's
how
the
does it
question.
hold up? I've been in Zoom calls where we had 40 or 50, and it was busy, but it was doable. So I don't know how well StreamYard holds up under those kinds of loads, but obviously we haven't had them this year.
So how do we get that problem?
I think you're running up against comfort levels.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Some people will sit and comfort levels, and I think for the US, this is an okay time slot, but it is starting at 9 Eastern, and Pacific time it's 6 o'clock, which obviously runs into dinner time for some of us quite often. And then, but you talk about England or India or Australia, you're not going to get people. So it's hard to do a worldwide thing, I think. I think that's why doing it with text in Discord, people can ask and we can come back with answers as soon as we have them. But I like the face-to-face thing. It's nice. The participation and the camaraderie, et cetera, is pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then another question I had, even just this evening, is why did we lose so many people along the way? The people that pushed hard for Discord, who, by the way, I'm very grateful for, they're long gone. Right? The people that helped me set up Discord initially. Emil, Commander Moto, we haven't seen them in months. Now, I know Emil took a new job down in Mexico, but, that's just one example. We lost a lot of people. How do we not lose them in the future?
I don't know that you could control some of that because, like you said, like with Emil, he probably didn't know that he was going to get this contract to do this thing. And you got to make decisions. And honestly, a class like this would, if I got a job and, being asked to pull 60 hours a week, I probably wouldn't be building PCBs at home in my spare time, because there wouldn't be any spare time.
Fair enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Life changes at the drop of a hat.
I wonder if I think this was for my skill level, I think this was a great level of difficulty. It wasn't so easy that I could just do it with my eyes closed. But, it had some challenges to it, right? But I'm also thinking that not everyone wants to necessarily do that. Is there a way of making an even simpler version of this that would be almost faster, maybe? And so fewer components, but sort of hits on all the key elements. Because I'm just thinking we have the one wire control for the LEDs, but then also the SPI for the RGBs. But you don't we're not looking at running differential lines or anything. So we don't need that. Let's do one or the other, but no, don't do both. What was the value? Was there a value of having both of those other than from a programming context?
So
really getting ruthless with how you cut down and sort of I don't want to say you did a bad thing. I think this is a fantastic course. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. But to your question.
No. I don't get that at all, that you're criticizing. But let me answer, and then let me extend on your question. So the reason that I picked everything that's there, we don't need a light sensor, we don't need a lot of the stuff. But if you go out and build a design of your own, you're going to run into I2C. You're going to run into SPI. A lot of people like using lights, LEDs on their things. So I wanted those so I could explain them and deliver into them. Now, to your point, is there a simpler project? I think that is actually a great idea. And amazingly enough, you're not going to believe me, I was thinking the same thing a couple hours ago. What could we do that would be cool but simpler?
Dice.
What?
Make a dice. Make a electronic dice thing.
You mean
okay. 7 spots on 2 sets of 7 spots.
7 LEDs on a board, and a little microcontroller.
And push a button and it spins.
Push a button and it spins, 2 dice.
Okay.
But sorry, I was jumping anyway.
No. That's good. I'm just thinking it out. So in your model, do we still have a compute module? How are we going to program it?
So it would probably be Arduino, is my guess, which has pros and cons. Harder. Yeah, or you could do Circuit Python. I don't know if you can actually. I think you can buy an ESP32 with Circuit Python on it, which would get you very similar. I don't know if there is something smaller than a Raspberry Pico that's as easy to use.
Well, I think the thing about the Pico that I like is it's a $4 board.
Yeah.
None of the rest of those are $4 boards, and and most of them are no easier to work with. There's some that are harder, but there's not any that are going to be a fantastically easier thing to route or to program. And I think you were talking about the SPI. I know that one of the reasons you went with the multiple formats is to get people experience in the potential challenges of different formats. Whether that's a version 101 subject is debatable.
Let me run an idea past you. By the way, that's how Pico got elected for this, because Jesse and I had a great deal of back and forth. Jesse wanted to use, was it the microbit, Jess?
No, I never wanted to use the microbit. I think
What was the one?
Oh no. Yeah. SparkFun
Micromod. So the reason that I went for the Pico was it's an all-in-one. You've got the USB, you've got the programmer, plug it right in, you're good to go. Last year when we did the Arduino, we had to source 50 programmers, distribute those. That's cost right there, $25. They got lost in shipping, all of them. We got them back eventually, but that was a pain. So this year I was like, forget all that. I just want something where you can program. So then we started looking at boards, and this was the least expensive option. $4 a piece. You can't beat it. So
You can't. It's a great. I mean, I had heard of it. I thought that the Pico was like a Raspberry Pi still, but like less powerful.
A lot of people do.
That's
Yeah.
the Zero.
Yeah, but this thing, oh my gosh, I'm gonna transition so many of my projects onto this platform.
Yeah.
So
Well-
you really need to get Raspberry to sponsor you.
Well, one of the pain points to the Pico for me, I don't trust USB micro. I have replaced so many cables and 2 or 3 internal devices. I had a Nexus 7 tablet that I had to replace the USB cable internally because it failed. A random whatever failure those things get because they're so tiny. USB-C is so solid.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I love the 2040, but I love the Feather Adafruit's Feather version. Yeah, it's currently $12 instead of $4.
They have the Keeb 2040, which is also like embeddable, meant for keyboards. It's less I/O, so you'd have to go with a.
You got to get a
you'd have to go with
multiplexer.
you'd have to go with the column row thing, but that might be something to go to because is column row, you think, easier or harder? You did a column row one.
The only thing about the column row that I think was a little harder was the putting the column traces on the back of the board. That was and coming through with vias next to every switch.
Okay.
Other than that, it wasn't a big deal. I haven't programmed it yet, but the Adafruit keyboard library supposedly handles both situations.
There's many castellated slot RP2040 boards that we could use that have USB-C on them, have quick connectors and such. Some of them are under $10. So that might be like a matrix keyboard, getting rid of all the filters and stuff with a new 2040 might relieve some pain points.
what about so you know how Arduino has shields, BeagleBone has capes. What does the Raspberry Pi have?
Plates, isn't it? Or-
Take a look. I just found SparkFun has an RP2040. It's the SparkFun Pro Micro. It's USB-C. It's $10. Not as many I/O, doesn't look like. But you could. I think it would be a great solution for a smaller project, or assuming you didn't need as many I/O.
Well, yeah, that's my question. What if we make instead of making the whole board, the only thing we make is a thing that you can plug the Pico into? So you could do your die example, right? So we're just making the small little board that fits on top of the Pico. That's not that's close to a rectangle.
Oh, I see. So you're doing you're making like a feather pack that you sort of like put top onto it.
Feather's got wings. Like I said, Arduino's got shields.
That's I think what I was thinking of originally with the Micromod, because the Micromod that has the cord, everything on it, and you just buy like a connector, and it just goes into the connector like a piece of RAM.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I like about this though is that it's embedded, and so the thing is the thing, and I don't have to go find another thing to plug it into. it is what it's
Sure.
there, and I can do whatever I want.
It's
I
$4
think the other thing, and it's $4. I mean,
Mhm.
like a cup of coffee, right? I think one thing that I would be curious to see if other people's take on is like, for me, like when I first saw like light sensor, I was like, why do I need a light sensor? This is stupid. I did
Yeah,
it
well,
because
you're
it was part of the.
stupid.
Yeah, I know, neener. I did it because it was part of the assignment, right? Like, which sometimes you just have to do that, right? And so I get it, but I'm wondering like if maybe, and that's kind of like my idea, like with the dice, is that what's something that that people can get excited about, like all of the components about, and maybe that would keep people's interest more rather than feeling like they have to do something,
Well, I think a couple things that were a barrier to me initially. Until I came up with the whole cow thing that I'm doing. What do I need a keyboard for? I don't use a macro keypad. I very rarely use those kind of things. I game in situations where I'm not sending tons of randomly configured commands.
you don't need a macro keyboard to play solitaire
or anything. And I was thinking, I would not even have I've got the Adafruit macro pad. I wouldn't have had that if I had not subscribed to the AdaBox and had them ship me one that ran, by surprise. I'm just not that interested in the keyboard projects. And put an artistic project on top of that was, oh my gosh, how am I going to do anything artistic? I managed. But
here you are, one of the most active user, if not the most active user in the course.
Yeah. But
but
I show just to segue this comment on the screen here from Jeremy. Considering how much time I spent getting up to speed with KiCad, I would have benefited from doing a very simple board first, then this one next. We had a week to learn how to use what is a pretty complicated piece of software, or 2 or 3 weeks, spaced out across the stuff. But I spent, I'm currently unemployed. I don't have other time commitments very much. I've got to visit my grandkids once a week and stuff. But I probably spent at that point in the project just working on the board or playing with KiCad to get to that point. I was spending 50 or 60 hours a week just because it was fun.
Okay.
People aren't going to have that if they don't, and I know CAD. I have decades of experience in CAD. So a lot of it was a familiar thing, and it was just, how does this program do it? But I still spent an awful lot of time. And people aren't going to pick it up that fast.
I also think that you had some fracturing within the group because you had some people using like KiCad and some people using like Eagle and some people using whatever. I think that my suggestion would be like, everyone's on KiCad. That's it, period. If you don't, if you're welcome to use something else if you want, but we're not going to support that officially.
Yeah,
I think that would help.
Oh, we lost Jess. So one of the things that,
just like we have with the, this is how we're doing the board, have it be a requirement that if you don't follow it, you can be on your own a little bit. But that would be, I think that would be a better.
Reduce the choices people have to get to make or have to make.
So like this year, it was a very, very clear KiCad split. KiCad just dominated. Wasn't the case last time. Last time we had a pretty even split between Eagle and KiCad.
So then limit it to 2. Say Eagle or KiCad, but don't have because there was 5 or 6 options in the drop down. Like I would say, because I think Eagle has a free version, right? Or
it's limited, but it works. It's functional.
Yeah. So limit it to ones that people can get or use for free, or would be reasonably likely to be able to do so. And I think there's only 2 or 3.
Okay. Now,
because anytime you can reduce choice, will make it simpler, because like people don't know what they're doing, and now they get into like this whole analysis paralysis of like, oh my gosh, do I have to shell out $500 for dip trace or whatever? Not that that's what people are thinking, but you know, it's another thing to think about.
Yeah. Okay. So we lost Jesse. He clicked the wrong button and he's got to go. So he's not coming back. That's okay, buddy. Okay. So that's something to think about. Let me mute now. It's okay, Jess. We hear you, buddy. I'm just going to turn off my notifications there. So we could limit choices, but the thing that I will offer, like a minute or two ago, you know, you guys were telling me that I made you do things you don't like artistic and using that light sensor. By the way, the light sensor, the only reason, oh, Jesse is back.
Yeah, I was coming back on just to say I gotta go. I accidentally closed the window though before I was ready.
It's
That's
okay,
fine.
buddy.
I'll leave you to the wolves to get torn apart on how the class is going.
Oh, they're fine. No, I like this stuff. All right, Jess, have a great night, man. Thanks for coming.
Yep. Bye.
Okay, bye. Where was I? Oh, okay. So like the reason we have a light sensor, it was the cheapest sensor that was available that was I²C. Right? We could have gone like temper humidity or something, and we looked into those, but they were either unavailable or prohibitively expensive. The artistic requirement is something that I slowly pushed for against all suggestions to the contrary from everybody.
I do think that some of those things are good. Like, I mean, as an engineer, I absolutely think that, and you've taught before, so I think you appreciate this even more. You have to push people outside their boundaries. And there are things that, and sorry for the screaming child. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
You know, you have to push people outside the boundaries, and you're right. You know, you're not going to really get very many opportunities to design a non-rectangular PCB. So I think that was good. I did spend legitimately 8 to 12 hours trying to figure out how the heck to draw what I wanted into a program. I wanted to use Inkscape, but I'm not very proficient in that. So I ended up doing it as like a 2D thing in FreeCAD and exporting it as a DXF or whatever that format is. And that worked, but it was kind of painful. And so, you know, is that necessary to do a PCB? No, not really. So maybe, you know, maybe the class is like a 2 PCB thing. Maybe it's, you do one, a small one that's rectangular, small, to get started, to figure out, you know, to learn KiCad, to figure out what you're doing, to, you know, understand the fundamentals of the process, of like, you know, how, you know, DFM works, how you're running your DRC and your ERC and all those different checks work, and your paper dolls and all of that. And like, you know, getting it made and soldering it and doing that, and then do a little bit larger one where it is more, has that artisanal flair to it, that is something like what we did with the keypad.
Yeah.
And maybe you lose a bunch of people in between, you know, between after the first one and before the second one. But I think that would be a really good sort of get it under your belt to learn what's what. And then I think that there's also value in the continuing on and having like that mentoring and be able to ask questions about how you do something more complicated.
So would that be in addition to getting to Blinky or instead of getting to Blinky?
What do you mean Blinky?
There's a KiCad tutorial that was actually quite beneficial, but it took me a day and a half.
So back in week 2 or something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Okay,
it's
so no,
tutorial one.
Yeah, so my question was, you know, you're saying do another simple board. Would we still do getting to Blinky, or would we replace getting to Blinky?
I don't know. You could do getting to Blinky as like an exercise, because I think that one was pretty simple if I remember it right. I think the idea is that it's beyond Blinky, but it's definitely a step lower than what the macro keyboard might be. It's because it's, and I'm in particular, I'm thinking about like, instead of having like, you know, 10 keys, you know, don't have as much like like, you know, I think it's still helpful to have at least 3 of something or 2 of something, so that you can understand how the hierarchies work in duplicating, because that's a very important thing. I think you have to have at least like 3 things probably to be able to fully appreciate that functionality and how that works. But just reduce the footprint, reduce the number of things you have, reduce the complexity so that you can focus on the designing of the PCB and getting that right. I guess that's kind of my thought. Does that make sense?
I think so. I was just trying to think of what that would look like, but yeah, it makes sense. And then what it would do to the timeline.
Yeah, well, and maybe what we need to do is have this be a 2-stage course. Have 101 be the enhanced Blinky. And then, for the people that are interested, we go on to 102 and do a fancier thing that takes more. It assumes the program to some extent, but then you can do something more complicated.
Definitely have to give that some thought. By the way, do you know why I wanted you to make an artistic non-rectangular board?
Because it's the only time you're going to be able to do it.
Well, yes, but there's another reason. Well, there's actually 2 other reasons that I had in mind. One is simply from a marketing standpoint, right? If everybody makes boards that look rectangular like this, they're very boring and they're not going to get any attention out in the world, right? Pimeroni's macro pad.
Yeah.
It works.
It works. It works just fine.
It works.
Perfectly functional.
Yep. But it's not
exciting.
Fruits
is the same way.
Adafruits. Very cool. Not very exciting. But you take the brain board.
Andrew's really awesome looking, very eye-catching.
Very eye-catching, completely useless. I still haven't flipped the LEDs around. But from a marketing standpoint, I can get views on this that I simply can't get on this.
Well, yes, and I think that
the real reason.
Okay, what's the real reason? Well, I was gonna say, I think that also it's a good stretch of the imagination so that you understand what PCB manufacturing can do. If all you thought, if everyone thinks that PCB manufacturing is just rectangles, that would be boring. But to actually understand that, oh no, you can do any shape you want. That's actually pretty cool.
Well, that is actually the reason that I put in this requirement. It is unusual. It does happen that you get to design rectangular boards, but it's unusual. Usually you have some mechanical constraint that's all awkward and weird, and you've got to work around that. So you've got to figure out how to import that DXF file and do that other stuff. Give me a second here. Okay, there we go. So you've got to work around all that and figure out how to incorporate it into the design. The rectangular stuff, it doesn't happen that often. It does happen, but it doesn't happen that often. So that's why. And marketing. Marketing's important. So, all right, gentlemen. Well, we're about half an hour over at this point. Any final thoughts, and then I'll let you guys enjoy your evening.
I think you have a great thing. I think that, like all great things, you'll continue to iterate on it, and it will just get better. And I don't have worries about that. So I appreciate you seeking input. I have the thing I always like to say is look, I have my opinion, but that just represents my opinion, right? I don't represent the opinion of everyone else. It's my unique opinion based on the way I learn, and I know I learn in a very specific way. And that's great for me, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be true for Brian or Elliot or Jesse or anyone else who might be taking the class. So I'll just sort of caveat everything I've said with that.
No, I think that it's an important lesson for engineers to take. When you are the engineer, you are responsible for the final decision. However, you have to seek input. That input might be a DFM. That input might be me talking to you. If you start to personalize mistakes as a failure in character, you're going to burn out and you're going to be miserable in life, right?
And this is not the career for you if that's how you.
So did I make mistakes as the course went along? Sure. But does that mean I'm a bad person? No. So same thing like with Andrew making suggestions. I'll incorporate some of those. I'll discard others. But I've got to go out and get that because it's too much for a person to do alone. So no, I appreciate everything you've offered, Andrew. And
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll take some, I'll not take others.
Throughout the rest, absolutely.
And I think you were asking for things to put on a survey.
Yes.
I think one thing that would be good, and I don't know what response rate you'll get across the board, but even for the people that made it for a week, just an open-ended, if you quit early, what contributed to that? If you were here the whole time, what contributed to that? Just an open-ended comment box.
Yeah, we've got to reach back. You're right.
And people, you probably find some reason. A lot of the reasons we've talked about, it's probably just a lot of times it's time. A lot of times you're being overwhelmed with the software, but we're not going to know speculating. So get some hard answers, and I think we'll have some guidance.
And I would even go so far as to say you might consider making that the only question, because I think that's kind of, or at least one of, I think the last time there was a few too many questions. I'd say it should be 1 page of questions, no more than 5 questions.
Yeah, keep it,
give or take. Keep it simple if you want the response rates, because otherwise my eyes start glazing over, and everyone, people won't. The more questions you have, the lower your response rate will be.
Okay, fair point. All right. Well, with that, I'll see y'all in Discord. I would like to thank everybody who joined me today, Jesse Robinson, Brian Lindahl, Andrew Ferguson, and our participants out in the comment gallery, which I can't read right now because I'm on a small screen. And I would also like to
got MTJ and Parallel Logic and Janice Joseph, Jeremy Figgins, all commenting on stuff. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. And our sponsors, Royal Circuit Solutions, Advanced Assembly, DigiKey, Walkwe, theanalog.io, the best newsletter you're not reading. So sign up for that. If you haven't already, please sign up for the Advanced Assembly YouTube page, like, subscribe, and share with friends. We're stuck at 448 subscribers. I need to get that number to 1,000. The only way we're going to do that is by expanding our circles. So please share. If you find some good content, do that. If you'd like to watch a YouTube video, even in the background, we're at about 2,000 hours now. I'd like to get that up to 4,000 hours. So a lot of this stuff, especially Mark Voids of Warranty, it's not meant for you to sit there and stare at it continuously. It's there while you eat lunch. It's there to be, just let it play in the background and peek up every now and again. It's fun. I hit things with hammers a lot. It's
like Mythbusters blowing things up at the end of the episode. There's going to be glass on the floor at some point.
It's fun. So, all right. Well, with that, I really do appreciate your time. Thank you for staying late with me. Do you guys want another office hour this week, or push to next, or what would you like to do?
I'm good. I'm good for this week. I'm just waiting for my boards at this point, so I'll probably be trying to get some other stuff done this week.
Okay. Well, just maybe next Monday we'll do it again.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great night. Bye.
You too. Good night.